Disney's Marvel has sparked outrage with their featured superhero for its coming Captain America New World Order film, set to release in 2024, based on the comic introduced in the 80s. It portrays an Israeli woman named Sabra, who was an agent of the country's notorious Mossad agency. Surprisingly, the people of Israel were also irked by the move. The popular comic series came under fire when the storyline was labeled as insensitive, as it featured Sabra with a giant Hulk character, his face tear-stained as he shouts at Sabra, the Israeli superhero, as a young Palestinian boy lays lifeless on the ground who was killed by alleged Arab terrorists. Boy died because boy's people and yours both want to own land. Boy died because you wouldn't share, the Hulk says. A few panels later, the woman in the white and blue costume with the Star of David on her chest kneels next to the boy. It has taken the Hulk to make her see the dead Arab boy as a human being, the comic says. It has taken a monster to awaken her own sense of humanity. Not only does it take the death of a child for Sabra to see a Palestinian as a human being, but the use of the words Allah in the comic is insensitive towards Muslims, critics say. The superhero's name Sabra is also problematic because it symbolizes the massacre of over 3,500 refugees, mostly Palestinians in South Lebanese Shia, at the Beirut Sabra neighborhood at the nearby Shatila refugee camp that took place in September 1982. The Israeli military surrounded the refugee camps to make sure no refugee was allowed to leave and opened the other gate for the right-wing militias to come in and carry out the massacre. Independent witnesses, including Western journalists, were horrified to discover that many victims, especially babies, were mutilated before being killed. Israelis provided military support, logistics, nighttime vision, and bulldozers to carry out the massacre and build mass graves. In a span of 40 years, Sabra's character has appeared alongside quite a few Marvel Comics superheroes and will now be a poignant part of their upcoming movie. However, the origin of the superhero has been labeled as immensely racist and anti-Muslim, a story that desensitizes Palestinian lives. It also promotes Mossad, who is known for using aggressive surveillance technology to spy on Palestinians and even kill several renowned Palestinians, such as the revered writer Ghassan Kanafani. The character Sabra is depicted as a police officer with Israeli military training, an organization that has mercilessly killed hundreds of thousands of Palestinians over the years. Also allegedly labels the Palestinians as Arabs, a term used by Israel to ostensibly extinguish the Palestinian identity. Critics have cited that several characters Sabra encounters are portrayed as misogynistic, anti-Semitic, and violent. That comic doesn't suggest anything positive about how this film will play out, said Yusuf Munayyer, a Palestinian-American writer and analyst from Washington, D.C. The whole concept of turning Israeli spies into heroes is insensitive and disgraceful. The glorification of violence against Palestinians specifically, and Arabs and Muslims more broadly in mass media, has a long and ugly history in the West, and it has remarkable staying power, he added. Walid F. Mahdi, author of Arab Americans in Film from Hollywood and Egyptian Stereotypes to Self-Representation, said the U.S.-Israeli alliance in cinematic narrative since the 1960s has celebrated American and Israeli law enforcement and intelligence agencies as good forces committed to deterring violence that has been chiefly linked to Arabs and Muslims. Back in 1978, Israeli comic book artist Yuri Fink brought the character Sabra Man to life, a series of comics portraying an Israeli superhero whose overall ensemble bore a close resemblance to Marvel's Sabra character, which appeared in Marvel Comics 2 years later. The name Sabra in Hebrew loosely translates as the fruit of a cactus, commonly known as a prickly pear. And much like the meaning of her name, the character of Sabra from the Marvel Comics is likely to prick the sentiments of millions once the new movie is released in 2024.